On July 11th, 2016, a tornado tore straight through the center of Watkins, Minnesota. Winds hit 125 miles an hour. 25 homes were damaged, 5 businesses destroyed, the roof of the nursing home was ripped clean off, and 50 elderly residents had to be evacuated in the middle of the night. Watkins is a town of fewer than 1,000 people. Everyone knows everyone, everyone helps everyone. That's just how it's always been. The next morning, people came out, cleared the wreckage, patched up roofs, planted new trees. Watkins was rebuilding. Summer went on. 5 weeks after the tornado, in that same little town, a 5-year-old girl would be taken from her own bed by someone her family considered a friend. Someone they trusted enough to let him sleep in their house. And here's the thing that gets me about this story. It's not that it happened. It's not how it happened. It's that nobody, absolutely nobody, saw it coming. Not a single warning sign, not a single red flag. At least that's what it looked like. This is the story of Elena Ertl. Elena Jean Ertl was born on October 31st, 2010, Halloween. Her parents were Matt and Kayla Ertl. She had an older brother, Carter. They lived in the small town of Watkins, about 60 miles northwest of Minneapolis. Population 945. Kayla used to say about her daughter, she was our little nut, always smiling, always giving hugs to everyone. Elena loved pink and purple, loved dressing up like a princess, and singing songs from her favorite movies. Frozen was the big one. She slept with her Elsa blanket every single night, every night. But she wasn't some quiet kid. Elena loved mud, puddles, bikes, the outdoors. She'd climb up on the barn roof to help her dad with repairs. At 5 years old, Matt built her homemade go-karts, and she'd race them up and down the sidewalks. Kayla said that if Elena missed a day of school, everybody felt it. She was the kind of kid who'd walk up to you on the street and say hi just because she wanted to. She waved at strangers on walks. She was everyone's friend. That fall of 2016, Elena was about to start kindergarten. Her teacher, Don Kukla at Eden Valley Watkins Elementary, was already expecting her in class. School was 2 weeks away. And in 2 months, Elena would have turned 6. August 19th, a Friday, a regular summer evening in Watkins. Matt Ertl was playing softball in the local league. The team was called the River Rats, sponsored by a local bar, Riverside Tavern. It was a ritual. Every Friday, a game, then drinks. On the team was Matt's friend and coworker, 25-year-old Zachary Todd Anderson. They worked together, played together, drank together after games. Zach lived in Coon Rapids, more than an hour away. So after Friday games, he'd often crash at the Ertls' place. Nobody thought twice about it. It was normal. That's what friends did. After the game, around 10:30 at night, Matt and Zach stopped into Riverside Tavern, beers, vodka, Red Bulls. The bar closed at 1. They moved on to Gordy's bar, just a few blocks from the Ertl house. Kayla met up with them there. More drinks, a takeout pizza. That bar closed at 2. Around 2 in the morning, Kayla headed home. Elena was asleep on the couch in the living room. Her mom picked her up, carried her to bed, and tucked her in with her favorite Elsa blanket. Tucked her in, kissed her, and left the room. Matt got home around 2:30. Zach showed up later, somewhere between 3:30 and 3:45. He and Matt hung out for a bit. Zach kept talking about how much he loved hunting, how he wanted to go up to the family cabin. Around 4 in the morning, they both went to sleep. Their white 2002 GMC Sierra pickup was parked outside. Matt's phone was charging in the truck. The house wasn't locked. Watkins, fewer than 1,000 people. Everyone knows everyone. Nobody locks their doors. August 20th, Saturday, 8:30 in the morning. Matt and Kayla woke up. The family had plans to go camping, tents, backpacks, everything was already packed. The kids were excited, but Elena wasn't in her bed. She wasn't in her room. She wasn't anywhere in the house. And that's not all. The white pickup was gone from the driveway. Matt's phone gone too. And Zach, he was nowhere to be found. Think about that. You wake up in the morning. Your 5-year-old daughter is missing. Your truck is missing. And the friend who was sleeping at your house, also missing. But here's the thing. Matt and Kayla had known Zach for years. They trusted him. He had no criminal record. At least, not one they could see. And the first thought wasn't he did something, it was there's got to be some explanation. Maybe he had to leave in a hurry. Maybe he took Elena with him for some reason. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. They got in another car and drove all over town. Checked the house, the yard, the camper, the neighbors' lots, nothing. Called Zach over and over, no answer. Called Matt's phone, the one still in the truck, dead silence. At 9:56 in the morning, they called the police. The Meeker County Sheriff's Office launched a search. Patrols swept the surrounding area. They reached out to Zach's cell carrier to track his phone. They brought in the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the BCA, checked surveillance cameras at local stores, nothing. At 1:12 in the afternoon, an Amber Alert was issued, statewide. Elena's photo went out everywhere. Description of Zach, short-trimmed beard, possibly wearing a black t-shirt that read Riverside, Minnesota softball. Meanwhile, investigators were tracking Matt's phone, the one left in the stolen pickup. They got a signal around 6:30 that morning, a cell tower in Todd County. Last ping, 9 a.m. Then the phone went dark. They also found surveillance footage from a store in Browerville. Around 8:30 in the morning, Zach walks in alone, buys a bottle of water. He's wearing his softball uniform, the same one from the game the night before, no sign of Elena. A second camera at a clubhouse in Wilderness Park. Zach goes in and out, same uniform, alone. You know what gets me? He stopped to buy water, a bottle of water, after everything he'd done. That moment, it says a lot about the kind of person we're dealing with. Just before 2 in the afternoon, less than an hour after the Amber Alert went out, a call comes in to the Cass County Sheriff's Office. A man on the line says he's Zachary Anderson's father, says, "I think my son is the one you're looking for. He called me this morning asking for permission to go to our family cabin." The cabin is in Motley, Cass County, 90 miles north of Watkins. The father gave police permission to search the property and the cabin. 2 pairs of officers were sent out immediately. 90 miles. They drove not knowing what they'd find, whether Elena was alive, what exactly had happened, and whether they'd get there in time. Wilderness Park Estates, rural Cass County, woods, swamps, hunting land, a quiet place. The Anderson family came here to hunt. First thing the officer spotted, the white roof of the pickup in a ditch on the southwest edge of the property. The truck had been driven into thick brush, down into a low spot, an attempt to hide it. Sloppy, amateur. Officers approached the cabin, went in with weapons drawn, cleared it room by room. No Zach, no Elena. But on the kitchen table, they found something. A single-shot 20-gauge shotgun. Shells, 20-gauge and 12-gauge, scattered across the table. No 12-gauge shotgun anywhere in sight. And a note, what investigators would later describe as a suicide letter. There was also wet clothing. Softball pants, the same ones Zach was wearing in the surveillance footage. Wet sneakers, wet socks, wet clothes, a swamp out back, a note. The officers headed outside. Behind the cabin, they found tracks. Someone had walked into the woods along a trail. Cass County Deputy Sheriff William Connor and his canine partner, a dog named Yankee, began the search. Yankee was a German Shepherd trained in tracking work. The officers didn't have a scent article to go on. Yankee's trainer, Steve Pearson, would later explain that the dog most likely picked up what's known as a stress scent. When someone's under extreme stress, their body gives off certain chemical compounds, and a trained dog can detect that. Yankee led the officers from the pickup toward the swamp. 4:24 in the afternoon, a quarter-mile from the cabin, swampy terrain. Zachary Anderson was standing knee-deep in water. He was injured and clearly needed medical attention. He didn't resist. They took him into custody. One of the officers asked, "Where's the girl?" "What girl?" Zach said. 25 years old, standing knee-deep in a swamp, and he pretends he doesn't know what they're talking about. BCA investigators read Zach his Miranda rights, the right to remain silent, the right to an attorney. Zach said 3 times that he didn't want to talk. 3 times. But investigators weren't sure if Elena was still alive. Every minute mattered. They kept going. They told him he needed to help get the girl home. That people make mistakes, but that doesn't make them monsters. Then, one of the agents asked him straight up, "Is the girl somewhere out here in the swamp, or do we need to go somewhere else to find her?" "In the swamp," Zach said quietly. They asked him to repeat it twice, then asked if he could show them where. He asked for a cigarette, and then he led them there. 6:02 in the evening, August 20th, 2016, in the southern part of Wilderness Park Estates, in a marshy area, officers found Elena. Her favorite frozen blanket was lying nearby. Elena was gone. Sheriff Brian Knutz made the call. The Amber Alert was canceled. This was no longer a search for a missing child. It was a homicide investigation. From the moment her parents realized she was missing to the moment she was found, less than 10 hours. When word of the arrest spread, everyone was asking the same question. Who is this guy? How is this possible? Were there no warnings? Sheriff Knutz told reporters, "We have no information on him as a predator. We have no known motive. We're at a loss as to why this happened." A family friend named John, who'd known Matt since childhood and played in the same softball league as Zach, said he seemed like a decent guy. Everyone liked him. He always had a smile on his face. That's what makes this so hard for everybody. They trusted him. His attorney at the first hearing noted that Anderson had no criminal history as an adult, just a couple of minor traffic violations. But then something from his past came to light. 2006. Zachary was 15. He was living with his mother in a townhouse in Monticello, Minnesota. Right next door, on the other side of the wall, lived a 31-year-old single mother with 2 small children. According to the Wright County Sheriff's Office, Zach started stalking the neighbor, left notes on her car, tried to break into her home multiple times. His behavior was so alarming that she went to the police. In 2007, he was charged with first-degree burglary. He ended up pleading down to third degree, the sentence community service, and a letter of apology. He was ordered to have no contact with the woman. She was so frightened that she had to move. But because Zachary was a juvenile, none of this showed up in public records. The case was sealed because of his age. Nobody could see it. Not Matt, not Kayla, nobody who let him into their home. When that woman found out what Zach was arrested for in 2016, she said, "I felt sick. I was in shock." Back then, 10 years ago, I never thought his behavior could escalate to something like this. She hoped her story would encourage other possible victims to come forward. Let's stop for a second. A teenager with a serious burglary and stalking charge. The punishment, community service, and an apology letter. Records sealed. 9 years later, he's sleeping over at the home of a family with 2 small kids, and nobody knows about any of it. I'm not saying the system is to blame for what happened, but I am saying the system didn't give people a chance to protect themselves. In October of 2016, a grand jury handed down 19 charges against Zachary Anderson, including first and second-degree murder, felony crimes against a person, kidnapping, and vehicle theft. Bail was set at $2 million without conditions, or $1 million with conditions. Anderson pleaded not guilty. On every single count, his public defender, Scott Collins, mounted an aggressive defense. On March 24th, 2017, he filed motions to dismiss the charges, suppress evidence, and move the trial to a different county. And this is where it gets legally complicated. Remember, Zach told investigators 3 times that he didn't want to talk, and they kept going? That became the centerpiece of the defense. Cass County Judge Jana Ostad ruled that investigators had violated Anderson's Fifth Amendment rights. His first statement, the one where he told them where Elena was ruled inadmissible. The jury would never hear it. That means the fact that he led police to where Elena was found couldn't be used as evidence. The defense pushed further. They asked to have the details of the body's discovery excluded, along with the clothing and blanket found at the scene. But that's where the judge drew the line. She ruled that Elena's body, her blanket, all the clothing, and all the physical evidence would have been found without Anderson's statements. Police were already on the property. They had a helicopter. They had K-9 units. Yankee was already heading in that direction. The evidence was admissible. The motion to dismiss? Denied. All 19 counts stood. Cass County prosecutor Benjamin Lindstrom was preparing for trial. And then another twist. March 2nd, 2018. Cass County courtroom, a pretrial hearing had been scheduled, but instead Zachary Anderson did something nobody expected. He pleaded guilty to the most serious charge, first-degree murder with aggravating circumstances. 1 count. The remaining 18 were dropped. In the courtroom, he was asked questions about the crime. He admitted that he had taken Elena and left her to die in Cass County. Sentence, immediate. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. The maximum penalty under Minnesota law. Prosecutor Lindstrom later told reporters, "I'm surprised he took the deal. He had no incentive. If it had gone to a jury, the outcome would have been the same." Victim impact statements were read in court, words from Matt and Kayla, words no parent should ever have to say. Watkins is a town where everybody knows everybody. And when something like this happens in a place like that, it's not just news, it's an earthquake. On the evening of August 23rd, hundreds of people gathered in the parking lot of St. Anthony's Church for an overnight vigil, maybe 1,000. In a town of 945, Father Aaron Nett said, "Today we remember a girl who was given to us as a gift. She loved others freely and innocently." Before the prayers, they played Let It Go from Frozen, Elena's favorite song. Hundreds of pink and purple balloons were released into the sky, her favorite colors. Tom Ertl, the director of the local funeral home and a distant relative of the family, said, "It was hell. It's senseless. There are no words." One of the elementary school teachers told a reporter, "I feel helpless. I think the whole state is in shock. A small town, central Minnesota. This can't be real." A GoFundMe for the family raised $14,000 in 8 hours. In 2 days, over 40,000. The goal had been 10. On August 25th, more than 300 people came to the visitation. On the 26th, the funeral at St. Anthony's Church. Elena was buried in the local cemetery. And now, the part of this story that gives me at least some hope. 2 months after Elena's death, Halloween was coming, her birthday. She would have turned 6. Kayla decided, we're not going to hide, we're going to throw a party for everyone. That party became an annual tradition. A Halloween birthday bash in Elena's honor with music, games, bounce houses, free for the whole town. Out of that grew a charity sharing the love of Elena Ertl. They collect toys for hospitals, put together gift baskets for kids fighting serious illnesses. They set up a free community library with a reading incentive program for children. They provide school supplies to families who can't afford them. Every year, on the 3rd Saturday in August, Elena's family and friends organize a memorial ride. ATVs, motorcycles, and hot rods, starting from a bar in Litchfield owned by Elena's grandparents, hundreds of riders. And on September 10th, 2023, 7 years after the tragedy, a bronze statue was unveiled in McCarthy Park in Watkins, life-sized. A little girl in a joyful pose. Elena. Mayor Chris Rowan said, "At first, we just wanted to put up a bench, but the idea kept growing. This is something close to our hearts and the hearts of the community. It helps with the healing." I hope when people come to this statue, they remember how precious life is. Kayla once told Elena that sunsets are someone watching over us from heaven. After what happened, she started seeing her daughter in every sunset. 5 weeks before Elena's death, a tornado ripped through Watkins. People came out the next morning and started rebuilding. Not because it didn't hurt, but because it did. And the only thing left to do was pick up the pieces and build something new. That's exactly what happened after Watkins lost Elena. But here's the question that keeps me up at night. The system sealed Zachary Anderson's juvenile records. His alarming behavior as a teenager, the stalking, the break-ins, all of it disappeared when he turned 18. He walked into adulthood with a clean slate and into the Ertl family's home. How many more clean slates like that are walking among us? If this story moved you, leave a comment and let me know what you think, especially about juvenile records. Should they stay sealed in cases like this? I really want to hear your take. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button. Every subscription helps us tell the stories of those who should never be forgotten.